I'd like to welcome everybody here to the Blue Earth County Board of Commissioners, July 10th, 2018. And let's stand and say pledge allegiance to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so we can look at our agenda and have a review and see if there's anything that we need to change.
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda this morning.
I'll move the agenda. Second.
We've got a motion to approve the agenda and a second. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Okay, our first item of business here is Judicial Ditch 43 acceptance hearing. We got, well, it says here Craig Austinson, but it's actually Ryan, isn't it, that's here today? Yeah. I thought you were taking the lead on this one.
Morning, Ryan.
Morning, Ryan.
Morning,
Ryan.
Good.
Good.
Today I'm Ryan Henniker, Drainage Management Specialist. Today we're here to discuss Judicial Ditch 43 acceptance hearing. Hearing notices were mailed to landowners on June 21st, 2018. Hearing notices were also published at the courthouse and also on the website on the same date, June 21st, 2018. The purpose of this hearing is to determine if Contractors Edge of Mankato, Minnesota has completed the contract for the improvement of JD 43 as specified to engineered plans. If so found, the board will accept the contract and or the final payments. I believe.
So this is regarding Judicial Ditch 43.
Yep.
And they've done some work over the past, I don't know, full year, I think, isn't it? Or how long?
We did some investigative work after we televised. It was about this time last year.
Okay.
Kyle was part of that, sorry. I was looking at him, I thought I had the wrong date, but it was around this time last year.
Okay.
So.
And so this is to accept all the work that has been completed?
Correct. Yep.
And is there anything else that you need to give us as far as, any more purpose for this hearing or any concerns that you want to bring up?
Other than there was one concern found with an individual landowner, that is being handled as a warranty item. Chuck may speak of that.
Okay, sounds good. All right, so today's findings in order then are here for acceptance of the project ditch number 43, and we can open this up for public hearing for public comment. Correct?
You got engineer's report. Chuck,
Engineer's report.
Oh, okay. Go ahead first.
Right. Good
Sorry.
morning.
Morning, Chuck.
Chuck Randall with ISG, and I have Kyle Sammons with me also.
Okay.
JD 43, this project's been around for a little while. The final construction actually occurred 3 years ago. We've been working with the contractor to get the system televised and do kind of final cleanup items. Those were done last year, and we are ready to accept the project. So as part of the acceptance, let me get the PowerPoint to work. There we go. A couple things that we have to do to put together an as-built for the project. You recall JD 43, the improvement project replaced about half of the system. The outlet was replaced with a 36-inch main that was downsized all the way from a 30 to a 24, and there was a branch line that was done and one lateral that was completed as part of the project. We completed an as-built, submitted that to Craig and Ryan. So with this final acceptance, the as-built will become the new legal grade, the new legal plan for the project. Also, as part of the project, we have to abandon the existing main. So with the final acceptance, there is a plan sheet that goes with the as-built. The green lines on the plan show the abandoned tile, and the pink lines show the new proposed tile. So in the future, if there's any maintenance on the system, you know which one is the public tile, which one is now the private tile. Some procedural things that we have to do at the final acceptance.
So, will we have to do two action items then instead of just one? You know, just one.
I believe it's just one.
Accepting the system and abandoning I think it can all be done as one. Included in the project was a small storage area in a ravine. A picture of that is shown here. I've got a few construction pictures of the 36-inch tile. Compaction, some bends, one of the inlets, one of the private tile connections. We did find during construction that we were unaware of, there was a buried limestone bridge. So that was one of our change orders early on. We had to dig through that because that was right through the main line. There it is. So there's some extra expense digging through that. At this point, we're recommending a final payment of $20,337.48 to the contractor, but we'd like to hold that payment until we get, as Ryan mentioned, we have one private tile that we found out yesterday that had been crushed inside of the construction limits. So we will hold the final payment pending the cost to replace that small section of tile that was in the trench. It's 200 feet or less of, I think, a 6-inch or 5-inch tile. Should be 5-inch tile. So we'd like to approve the project, accept it, and then when we get the bill for that, we'll make a final payment to the contractor, deducting the cost for that small section of tile. We have included with the report all of the damages during construction that were temporary damages in the areas where along the project, averaging about 100 feet wide. So those payments would be made to the contractor. Here's a picture of the warranty work that we were discussing. If you accept the project today, we have a 3-year warranty by state statute, and the bond for the contractor remains in place during that 3-year time. So at this point, we'd recommend accepting the project. It's been in place and been working for many years. So.
Yeah. So this language here, I'm not sure if it's adequate or not under the order. Any retainage under the contract shall be released to the contractor upon receiving the signed payment application and proof of release of all liens of contractors or materials related to the project. Is that adequate language for that? Or?
When we receive that information, we'll actually have an updated pay request with the deduct for the small amount of tile. And when we receive his signed lien waivers and he signs the pay request, then we'll pay him.
Then we'll pay. But do I have to say anything? Do we have to say anything here when we make a motion to add that on at all, or is that?
I think adding on that there may be a deduct for some small for a small amount of warranty work.
Okay.
Like I said, like we said at the beginning, if there are any landowners here in the system and they have any other issues, this is their opportunity to bring those up, and we can add those to a warranty list if need be.
Oh, okay.
We'll stick around for questions.
Okay.
Okay. Yes, now we can open this up then for public hearing for some public comment, excuse me. Is there anybody here that is here for this that would like to make a comment or ask any questions about Judicial Ditch 43? Anybody here that might want to inquire or ask any questions? But we have some folks here that are concerned with Ditch 43. I'll ask one more time if there's anybody who'd like to come to the podium. State your name and where you live, and if you have any concerns or inquiries. Okay, well, I'm going to close the public hearing then and bring it back to the board for action.
I move approval with the
Second.
exception that this warranty work be done before the final payment is made.
Okay. That sounds good. Can that be added then, Jesse? Okay. And the second was Commissioner Sternberg. Okay. Any discussion now? Any comments?
I don't have any comments. It was a long process and it's done.
Seems like it's working pretty well too. I mean, I think after all this rain, you'd know if it's working pretty well or not. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thanks a lot. Ryan, that's very good.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah. Let's see here, I gotta get back to where we were. I always have trouble with this thing. So I go to planning and zoning next. And welcome Aaron and George.
Morning, guys.
Morning.
Morning. First item we have up there today is some business from, let's see here, PC 16-18, Fast Sun LLC, request for review and amendment of a previously approved conditional use permit. And Aaron's taking the lead on this. Go ahead, Aaron.
Mr. Chair, I wonder first if you want to
Yeah.
take that off the
Okay,
table? That
all right.
would be appropriate, I believe.
I'll move to remove this from the table for discussion.
Second?
Okay. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We had a hearing on this on June 26th at our board meeting. And after quite lengthy testimony from landowners in the area regarding this solar array, I decided to table this for further investigation. And so it was on the table, and we closed the public comment portion of the hearing, and then we tabled it. And so now it's off the table and back to the board for discussion and for action. So how should we proceed?
I think Aaron has a brief report.
Okay. Aaron, would you like to give an update? Sure. Okay. See where things are at now? Okay. 'Cause I know there was a lot of issues of concern or a few issues of concern that we had to address.
So Commissioners, since the time that we met and this item was tabled, the applicants have submitted an updated site plan that was, I believe, provided for all of you, and then there is a stack of them on the table.
Okay, thank you.
By the front for anyone in the audience. They have adjusted the location, or the proposed location of the project to be further back from the center line of the County State Aid 27. They also are proposing to plant vegetated screening on the west side of the project along the fence line.
Okay. So I see it's going to be moved back quite a bit yet. It's going to be basically almost back in the middle of that field. You're looking from the east to west. It's situated in the middle. Is there any other questions of staff? Or, commissioners have of the staff?
None of the staff at this point, so
None of the staff. Okay. Okay.
we're ready to I got some discussion items when
Yeah,
we're ready.
okay. Let's see here. Let me see where I'm at here. Okay, it says, well, do we have any comments of the board? It says right here. So, I mean,
Right.
it says allow ES staff to speak. So, they did. Yeah, I think this would be the time to discuss it, because we have to decide what to do about it, if we're going to make any changes or...
All right, Mr. Chair, I guess I would start. As everybody knows, I've been involved with this from the beginning, being on planning and zoning. It's also my district. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone who took the time in the public meetings that we had to discuss this process. We had a lot of good input from the public and with staff and with Chuck and his team. Situations like this are the reason why this process exists. You know, it comes to planning and zoning first, and it comes here, and we have some more discussion about that. All the project does meet all the performance standards listed in the solar ordinance for the setbacks, impervious surface, etc. The performance standards for the conditional use permit are not simply black and white. It's not a matter of if the proposal meets the standards or not. Instead, there is room for interpretation of the certain aspects of this proposal and how it may affect neighboring property owners.
Item J, subsection F1, section 2447 states that conditions used will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of other property owners in the immediate vicinity for the purpose of already permitted. And that's kind of the basis of a lot of the uses that we do out in the rural area. We have a lot of discussion about that at the board level. As mentioned earlier, I've been in contact with some of the landowners through the last few weeks. I think we've made a great deal of process or positive movement towards trying to move this back. There is still feelings that we would try to get it to the north of the other solar problem, or the old solar farm, but from my understanding, that's just that, well, first of all, that's not on the table today. We're not discussing moving it. This is the proposal that we have on the table, so that is kind of not up for discussion at this point, unfortunately. I'm not really clear on the density issue. I thought Representative Munson would get us some more information on the density issue, but I'm assuming we're okay with the density, but we need to do some more research on that. The fact that the solar farm is getting pushed back quite a bit further, and we're adding some dogwoods around on the plan it shows to the west, but I am going to propose that we also add some to the north. And I know Commissioner Campbell, you mentioned some about to the south also, but that was my plan at this point. So as what I've done the last few days, as I said, I've met with landowners, and again, I appreciate their time and energy they've taken, putting their own personal time into researching a lot of this stuff. But a couple of them have done a lot of research on this, all the way back to the solar ordinance that was passed at the state. So the research has gone out quite a ways. I've actually got like 13 conditions that I've summarized. I've visited with Aaron about them just recently. He's managed to put them together for me, I think, in a relatively good format and type them up for me. So I think if it's okay with the chair, I would like to go through these extra 13 conditions briefly and just discuss them with the full board and get your feedback.
Yeah.
Is that okay, Mr. Chair?
Pretty good.
All right, so we'll start with condition number 1. And then I was going to have Aaron read these into the record after I'm done, but if I cover them enough that you think they're good for the public record, that would be acceptable to me. So I just want to make sure they're in the record. Prior to the issuance of the construction permit, the application shall get the service boundary line identified and marked by a licensed surveyor. Pretty self-explanatory. I don't know if that one needs a lot of discussion, but does everybody understand that one? The hours of operation during construction phase will be limited to 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, and when needed, from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. on Saturdays. And that's kind of a standard condition that we do when we're doing construction projects. I don't think it was in the original one, so that's why I asked Aaron to put it in here. The east boundary of the project shall be no further than 0 feet from the west side of the established service area boundary line. So that's for the access road and working on the project. That the access road shall enter the property as shown on the amended site plan, have 0 foot setback from the east side of the service area boundary, and be no wider than 20 feet at any point. Again, I think it's all stuff we've talked about, but I wanted it in writing.
Similar, yeah.
And 4 or 5 of these are similar, but I want to be very clear on this. So this one's very important to me. The applicant, the property owner, and the future owners of the project shall plant 2 staggered rows of cardinal dogwoods along the entire western and northern fence lines of the project. The important part of that is the applicant, the property owner, and the future owners. I don't want the system to get changed or something happen later and they say, well, I don't have to do that. I didn't make that promise. This conditional use permit goes with the land, so I think it's important that we get that in there, because if we're going to build a screen, we need to make sure the screen works and is effective for the life of the project.
Plus it takes years to grow that.
Exactly. So the first row of these next few are just kind of technicalities. The first row of cardinal dogwood shall begin at the northeast corner of the fence line and continue to the entire length of the northern western boundary of the project. The first row of dogwood shall be planted no more than 6 feet away from the western and the northern fence line of the project. The second row of cardinal dogwoods shall begin 4 feet from the northeast corner of the fence line and continue the entire length of the northern and western boundary of the project. The second row shall be planted no more than 10 feet away from the western, northern, and northern fence line of the project. Again, these are all just kind of how they're getting planted. It's technical, but again, I think it's important to get it in the record. The cardinal dogwoods should not be planted no more than 8 feet apart in their respective rows. Another very important one to me, the applicant, property owner, or future owner of this project shall replace any dead or dying portions of this vegetation screen every year prior to June 1st until the proposed project is decommissioned. Prior to issuance of the conditional use permit, a revised site plan incorporated all the above listed conditions shall be submitted to Environmental Services, being Aaron and George, for their final approval, because there will be some more adjustments on this plan today, so that's why I wanted that condition in there. And the project will be constructed exactly as depicted on the revised site plan, incorporated all initial conditions as well as all the above conditions imposed by the county board. So again, very onerous, but these are 13 new conditions that I would like to see added to proposal of moving this. Along with the other conditions, there's been a lot of discussion about the ditch system out there. We've just spent well over $1 million redoing that ditch system. But in the first round of conditions, we have very strict language on everything gets signed off by the ditch manager. So I'm comfortable with that that's covered. And then I have two questions. One, I just want the staff to make sure I'm clear that by giving this amendment, it's moving the conditional use permit of the one is being transferred to this, so that they can't put up another solar farm where the original one was if the service line gets moved. So I just need that clarified.
That is correct. This is a proposed amendment, meaning that if approved, the previously approved location would now be replaced by this amended location.
And then if they wanted to put another one where that one was, if the service line got moved, they would have to go through this whole process again.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And then there's been some TV reception out there, and I'm just not sure we can do anything with that with the technology. I just don't know. I had to bring it up because it's causing an issue with the panels that are already there. Whether this will make it worse, can't make it better, but I just thought that would be something worth mentioning.
People have antennas out there?
Yeah. So it creates an issue with something. Again, it's the stuff we're learning. We just didn't know about when we passed this ordinance. So those are the 13 conditions that I would entertain being added to the ones we already have. Again, I appreciate Chuck and his staff and our staff working together, but I really appreciate all the input that I've gotten from the public, the meetings we've had, 2 or 3 meetings. They've made phone calls to me, and it's good to have that input. And I do have to mention that after this is done, I think we have to open up some discussion about setbacks on these. I just think we have to have that discussion. We didn't have it the first time around, which was fine, but we need to talk about that as a board and maybe a planning commission. And I know we try to get together with the planning commission 2 or 3 times a year, so maybe we'll put this on our agenda and have a visit with the planning commission. So,
no, I think you're right about maybe we might have to open it up and look at it. I mean, because that relates to the density issue too.
Correct.
And so, what makes better sense sometimes, instead of worrying about these other issues, is just to make sure that it's also doesn't hurt other land values and other people that live in the area. That's part of our concern as a board too.
Yep. And we have a very fine line we walk, because people have rights to do what they want with their property, but at the same time, we don't want it to be injurious to other property uses. So,
yeah, and it's fairly new. I mean, this is fairly new. Fairly new stuff.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Commissioner Brunner, just for clarification purposes, we did have a proposed resolution in the packet that had some conditions. I understand your proposal is to add to that list of conditions, is that correct?
correct. These are all new.
All right, so just for clarity purposes,
Thank you.
I wanted to make sure we were recognizing that the resolution would be expanded then if that were to be passed.
That's my intent, yes. Thank you for that clarification, because I think that's important. And how many conditions were in the first round? Does anybody have that number?
There were 12.
12. So we'll have 25 now, if we want to make sure we're clear. So, and again, I think most of this Aaron and Chuck have talked about, We didn't want to try to negotiate all this at the last board meeting, so I think we made some ground here. There's a few things here that Chuck's not aware of, but he'll have to deal with that on his end, I guess. But those are going to be my recommendations to the board.
I'm trying to find those last conditions that were the last ones. You've got them up, is that the ones that are up? Bob?
Right, page 70, 71,
Okay,
and 72.
page 71.
Yeah, here's all the.
And they were the revised ones?
Nope, these are the original ones.
These are the original, yeah.
You don't even have a copy of these revised ones, because Aaron and I just finished these up this morning.
No,
so.
no, I know that. No, I know, you mentioned something to me about that, but, so, these other ones are pretty basic, these other ones, a lot of them.
The other ones are pretty standard, and
Yeah.
correct me if I'm wrong, staff, but the ditch ones are a little more outlined in this one, because there's a ditch system in the area, so.
Chair?
Yes. Just remember,
So the original 12 came with the motion from 2 weeks ago?
That is correct. The revised resolution in your packet is only revised in terms of mentioning that the previous motion was tabled, so all the conditions are from that original packet material 2 weeks ago.
So just for me to be clear and to be clear, we have a motion on the table. If Commissioner Brunder wants to put an amendment, he
need to put an
needs
amendment,
to
yeah.
make an
Yes.
amendment to that motion
That's
that's
correct.
already on the table, correct?
Correct.
All right.
okay.
And if there's no discussion, I would move to amend, but I want to let you
We
guys.
can have discussion after you
Sure.
move.
Well, I would move that we move the amendment.
I'll second
have an
that.
amendment for the 13 new conditions.
Okay. So we have an amendment to our original motion for acceptance, and we have a second to add these 13 conditions. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, is there any discussion on the amendment that's being brought forward?
Pretty straightforward.
Okay. And I do agree that most of these in here are pretty basic. I mean, these 12 conditions, except for the ditch part, I mean, that's a new piece, but those are pretty standard. You know what I mean? So these are new, these 13 help clarify things that sometimes are actually kind of just assumed. Some of them are sort of assumed, a few of these in yours that relate.
Correct.
There's like at least five of your conditions are probably kind of, part of the plan that's been written up and part of the diagramming and that sort of thing. But this is putting it into language so that we know that the conditions are there in writing. I think that's mainly it, right?
Say, how about the south and the east? I know
sorry.
we're not supposed to be talking.
I know. We can discuss it here. I was going to ask about that, but we really can't have any public comment. I'm really sorry because we had a lot of it last time, and we really heard a lot of issues of concern. And so, on each one of your conditions, Kip, that came out of meeting with some of the local landowners nearby.
Yep, and then all the testimony last
And
week.
the testimony last week. And then when you brought it up to me, I said, well, maybe they could go halfway around the south end there, because when people that live over that way, wouldn't see, all the, and I don't know if that's something, you wouldn't have to go all the way around probably, because it's all field. I mean, it's quite a ways, the field.
Maybe on
It's pretty far.
the south, not
Yeah.
so much.
Yeah, I don't know what you think about putting a few dogwoods around the corner on that, if we're gonna do it.
I certainly would support that, so.
I mean, if they're gonna be out there doing it, they could do some around the corner, to see.
That'd look better from the road.
Yeah, and the other landowners down that way. Because they already see the one to the west, they can see that array. I think these come up because of the density issue, and they come up because, that's why it's coming up. And we're trying to, if they're gonna be in there already planting dogwood plants, which grow 8 feet, sometimes 10 feet, depending on how they grow. It would be nice to have a few go around the corner, I think, and I don't know how to specify that. That's if you guys would like to entertain
Well,
adding some.
why don't we vote on this amendment, and then if we want to amend it one more time to
Yeah.
add the south side, we certainly could discuss that.
Okay, all right, that sounds good.
Would that be the appropriate way to handle that amendment, or do you want to just add it to this amendment?
Well, you could vote your amendment down and then change one of the conditions where you have the north and the west. We could add the south and, you know, do it that way. I
Could
think
you have an amendment to the amendment?
you certainly could do that as well. So there's a lot of
Yeah, we
ways that
could.
this could be accomplished.
Well, I'd like to propose that we put some dogwoods along the south side too, and I don't, if you want to do it the whole way or half the way or whatever, just so there's some screening there, I think it's important, that's what we're trying to do, is screen this a little bit.
Okay.
And so I'd like to entertain just adding one, to your condition of dogwoods for screening. Planted basically the same way, the distance is no more than 8 feet apart, like you were mentioning.
Just down the south side.
To the south side, and it could be, you know, you guys can discuss with me now how far along it should be. It should be the whole side, or just,
If you're gonna do it, you might as well do the whole side.
I agree.
Ben?
Right.
Okay. So, on the south side, added. Okay. That's it, just add the south side.
Want more discussion on your amendment?
Yeah, do we have anybody that would second it?
I'll second the amendment.
I'll second it. Second it, okay.
Already did.
Okay. All right, so is there any more discussion on that amendment, to the amendment?
That's how you're supposed to do it.
Okay, so now we have to vote on the amendment to the amendment. So adding the south side for dogwood plantings, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion carries. And now we're going to move forward with the 13 conditions which help clarify the issues that Commissioner Brunder has brought forward as an amendment to the original amendment. All those in favor of that amendment with the amendment that I just brought forward signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. And then now, Bob, there's not another action item that I have to do on that, is there?
Right, you'll have to
Got the
vote on the main
original motion.
Main motion.
Now we're back,
As
we're back to the original motion as a whole.
I thought.
So, other comments? And again, I just want to, Mr. Chair, I just want to say again, you know, that this isn't exactly what we needed to get done as far as the landowner's concerned, but at the same time, we have to honor the rights of other people, and it's a negotiating, it's the way we work. It's unfortunate, this is one of the hardest things about being on a county board, when you meet with people and want something done, and you have to try to have a balance. So I think we've come a little ways, but if nothing else, we have opened up our awareness of what these solar farms can do to property owners, and I appreciate all the input we got again. So
No, I do too.
I don't have any, I think I've covered pretty much all my stuff, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you.
I think this is what, you know, working together and compromising is all about. If state and federal government could do this, we'd get a lot more done across the United States. You know, not everybody's happy with what's happening. I mean, you know, there's still a lot of people out there that don't want it at all. And I'm sure that the solar farm isn't happy that they have to do all the changing that they got to do. But we're going to get it done. I mean, and that's what compromise is all about. This is what our system is all about. We can do it here in Blue Earth County. There's no reason that people in the United States and the state of Minnesota can't do it too. And I just wish that would work that way.
Anybody else? Any comments? Okay. Just a matter of saying it. I think all 5 commissioners, I'm quite sure, have been out there to look at the area. Yep. Is that true?
Yes.
So all 5 commissioners have been out there to examine the area and look it over, lay of the land. I think that's helpful sometimes when there's a controversy, you know, to see what the hills are like, or the valleys, or whatever might be in that area, and what's around that area. So that's comforting to know we've all seen it too. So, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. So, is there anything else from planning and zoning you wanted to say, or?
No, sir.
Okay, you'll be reaching out to Chuck then and get a new revised plan?
Thank you, guys. Thanks for all your work.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, thank you very much,
Public Works next?
Public
Yeah.
Works.
Too early to take a break and get it to work, but we could. You want to, because some people
Want
might
to take a little
want
break just to
We'll
let
just take a few minutes, but just take a 4-minute break, because a lot of folks are here
people,
that
yeah.
came to hear the hearing, and
We
so
can
we
visit with them a bit. I'm the engineer.
All right, we're back from our break. The next item of business here is going to be working with our Public Works Director and Engineer, Ryan. What do you have for us today? You have anything?
Oh, good. A few items. Few items and a lot of information. The first order of business is consideration of a local bridge replacement program grant agreement for County State Highway 52. This is for the bridge. It's near completion. Cleaning up the MnDOT grant agreement, the amount of local bridge replacement program funds available for the project was 50% of the total bridge replacement cost. For the structure itself, $237,376.50. The county is putting in matching funds of $591,257.15 into the contract for completion of the grading and the other half of the bridge eligible items. So you have a copy of the grant agreement in your files for consideration. I would recommend approval of the grant agreement.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I guess we could we can move it and still discuss it, right?
Oh, yeah, go ahead and move it if you're
I'll
going to.
move it. Second.
All right, so we have a motion for approval on this grant agreement, and we have a second. And this is something that's fairly routine, isn't it?
Yep, that's, MnDOT's changed in the last few years so that when we get these bridge replacement program funds with state bonds, it requires execution of a grant agreement of this nature.
Okay.
This is a standard form and resolution.
And then, is there any other concerns about this one, Ryan, as far as the cost?
Nope, this is, we got good bids. We approved the bids quite a while ago, and in fact, the project is nearing completion.
Yeah.
We're wrapping this up so we can get our full reimbursement from the state.
Okay, all right. All right, any other discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. And then there was a related resolution for CSAH 52 Local Bridge Replacement Program Grant Agreement that the state also requires approval of. That's the next item in your action, requiring action in your packet.
Right.
Move to approve.
We have a motion for approval of that for
Second.
Bridge 52. Do we have a second? Is there any further discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
All right, thank you. Action item number 3 in your packet is consideration of the Rapidan Dam Spillway Improvements Change Order number 11. You're seeing these change orders as a result of the procurement policy because the change order does exceed 10% of the contract amount or $50,000. These are two fairly large change orders. Number 11 is resultant of the downstream apron work. We needed to install the powerhouse has upstream and downstream sluice gates that can be installed at the dam to eliminate seepage through. What we were encountered is we got downstream of the dam, got our coffer dam in, and we could not keep up with dewatering. From past experience, we had determined that because of the relatively high water levels, the powerhouse was not able to seal off. So we authorized the contractor so that we could get the work done. We authorized the contractor to install the upstream and downstream sluice gates. That required specialized equipment. It also required bringing in a scuba diving contractor that had to do hydro excavation because there was a very large sand and silt bar that had accumulated on the upstream gates just with the sediment load that the river carries. So it was a very expensive but completely necessary activity to install those gates so that we could proceed with the downstream work. And we have all of the costs accounted for on a daily, hourly basis for equipment rates, subcontractors. We've gone through all of the paperwork that the contractor has submitted and detailed detailed it in depth.
Okay.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion for approval from Commissioner Purvis and a second from Commissioner Brunder. Is there any discussion or comments? I spoke with Ryan earlier this morning too. I didn't get a chance to yesterday, and so he explained things in pretty good detail this morning before he came in for the meeting. And the thing that's good about this too is about both of these is that there's money available that we
Absolutely.
received. Must have been what, 4 years ago?
Well, yeah, the grant agreement, I believe, was approved in early 2016.
16.
So just to kind of, yeah, I can jump to that. The dam project as a whole, the total project construction cost to date with the two requested change orders that we're discussing today is about $1.98 million. The DNR grant was for $2.4 million. So we'll still have approximately $400,000 remaining. The engineer's estimate was about $2.2 million. So while we are well above the original contract cost, we are still below the original engineer's estimate. And given the complexity and scope and growth of the work that we've determined we had to do, especially downstream, it's not surprising. We do have a preliminary design done for the concept for the west wall to resurface that, and we are going to continue to evaluate issuing either a change order or advertise for a subsequent bid, but that does require coordination with the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources that's administering the dam safety grant. So we want to get the contract items cleaned up and finalized so that we know what our balance is and whether or not we can proceed with that left wall work.
Okay.
But these two change orders obviously heavily influence the total contract amount.
Yes, yeah. Because you're close to the 2 million mark, aren't you?
Yep, which should be just under when everything's said and done as far as the final contract amount.
So that west wall, if you're on the dam, you're taking you look to the left.
Correct.
As
you'd be looking
It's kind of
down.
crumbling and falling apart over there.
Yep, and it'd be resurfacing over the top of that is what we determined would be a potential fix.
Okay.
It's about the same thing you did on the east side, wouldn't it be?
Effectively, yeah.
Okay.
So with the recent waters and stuff, does this have any impact with with those gates on, that'd be on the west side where they aren't, or not, with affecting the downstream water? I mean,
This is all tied to the construction project that we recently completed. So I guess it took a considerable amount of time for the contractor to submit all of their cost documentation that supported this. Again, they sent every invoice, they sent summarizations of time cards, you name it. We went through and we checked it all against our records to substantiate and justify it all. So that's why you're seeing it this far behind the work actually being completed, because we've been digging through this and spending quite a bit of time making sure that obviously as typically as it goes, you get more costs submitted than what you agree to, so we negotiated down to an amount that we could justify that we believe was fair compensation. And that's what these two change orders represent. So I guess I would probably be happy to if we could work through the two change orders, and then I'd be more than happy to answer questions about the dam as a whole.
So this first one is $122,315. That's the one we're doing right now. All right, any more discussion on that? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. And the next one is $150,000. Even.
Correct. So this is due to the extents of the apron scour holes. When we got downstream and were able to begin dewatering, the scour holes were much larger than originally thought, to the tune of about 850 cubic yards of concrete in excess of what was planned.
It's amazing.
That's a lot of
I mean, how many truckloads?
85 truckloads.
10 yards.
The original plan was about 100 because we couldn't identify the extents of the scour holes. Just the turbidity of the water and the sediment load makes it very difficult to do the underwater surveying that we do. So that required extensive amount of additional equipment, labor, staging, rental pumps. The contractor had to set up their cofferdam system, pump it out, and then they actually had to move their cofferdam system over to cover the extent of the apron. And I think they ended up having to move and do a third piece as well. So it was much more time consuming, much more costly to complete the work. But in the end, I do feel confident that we were able to get a dewater to an adequate elevation where we installed a very robust vertical and horizontal reinforcing system that I think will hold up much better than the most previous repair. And again, it ties back to putting those sluice gates in so we could really get it dewatered and see what we had to work with. But working 85, 90 feet below and then working downstream of a 108-year-old hydroelectric dam always comes with its challenges, and it typically always costs more than we anticipated in the original contract, just because it's always complex and challenging.
Water's powerful.
I'll move approval.
Second. Motion for approval and a second is received. Any discussion or comments? The only thing that goes through my mind is, even if we'd known it was going to cost some extra money, we probably would have approved it when it originally.
That's just it. It would have cost us amount of money had we
Wouldn't have mattered, yeah.
had the foresight at the time to anticipate these excessive costs.
Yeah.
In the end, it is what it is. I think next time around, we're going to just include an item in the contract for them to install the sluice gates upstream and downstream, but you don't know the sediment flow that's out there at the time with the flows. I'm sure these higher flows, so a lot of that sediment may have been washed out now.
When you say next time, you mean after this board's done, right?
Yeah.
I hope.
You might be done with your career already by then too.
I would be more than happy if that were the case, but this is the second time I've been
had to deal with it, yeah.
working on it in my stay with Lewis County here in the last decade, and I am confident we have a better repair this time.
Okay.
All right, so change order number 14 on this one. Any more discussion or comments? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
All right. So then, with respect to the Rapidan Dam project as a whole, our next step will be to approve these change orders, make those payments, and we'll have a final contract payment to bring before you in the coming months, and we'll close that contract out, and then we will look at those left wall repairs and solicit cost estimates.
Okay.
And perhaps consider taking it either out to bid or working with the contractor that we do have a contract with, if they can provide us with what we believe to be a reasonable cost for the work. Also, we'd still like to pursue that, but that does require the DNR's approval, so we will be coordinating with them.
Yeah. Back when I was much younger, I can remember those they're closed down for years with those stairways and all that stuff on that left side.
Yes.
I used to walk down there. I mean, everybody walked down there because it was impressive to be able to walk downstairs and look back up at the dam. And I don't know if that's if that will be in the plan.
That'll still remain closed.
It will.
In fact, I think the stairs will be taken out because there's no need for them. So it'd be armoring the entire.
Well, I know from an
wall.
engineer's view, there's no need for them, but.
You'll have to
From a
fly.
public safety standpoint, there's no need for them either.
Because
Mr. Chair, you'll have to fly over it.
probably 70 years or 60 years, those stairs were there and everybody walked down them. I mean,
Now we would encourage people to go to the canoe launch area.
And look back up that way?
To look upstream at the dam.
Okay.
Was the no trespassing sign there that long too?
I don't know, there's people on there all the time when I was
They
there.
couldn't read.
It was for service, right?
It was for service.
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was part of
So it would be no
Was it for
trespassing.
tourism, you mean? It wasn't for tourism?
No, for tourism.
I thought it was part of
Sure
tourism.
wasn't.
I don't know.
It's past the statute of
It's
limitations.
fun to feel the spray coming off of it, and hear the roar right next to you.
I just have,
All right, I just thought maybe you might be adding that in there as a feature for our park.
I just have a quick question relating to the.
I'm serious.
the dam.
You are.
Mr. Chair, I just have a quick, just on Will's experience with the downstream with all the heavy water and with those, not even, what those two gates, that is on the left side, what those gates.
Those are on the right side.
Or the right side?
Yeah, they're the right
Right side then.
On the east
And
side.
how, I don't know, what's the status of that, or we can't do anything?
Yeah, so
Federal-
there were concerns from landowners that was in the media as well. With the recently high flows, we were pushing 23,000 cubic feet per second through the dam. I'm sorry, 21,000 and change. I think 23 was the flood event from 2010. With the potential failure mode analysis study that began in 2014, 2015, wrapped up in 2016, one of the failure modes that was analyzed as being one of the highest risks was that if the county were to ever pull the two timber needle gates that were on the very far east or right side of the dam, because that sandstone bedrock that the dam is constructed on is so highly erodible and relatively weak at the surface, they were concerned that any prolonged exposure to heavy flows would result in significant scour and erosion of that sandstone bedrock, that could very likely lead to failure or collapse of the dam. So when that was identified, the solution that was designed and sought after was to take those, and the concern was if those gates were to ever fail as well, not only the county pulling them, to remove those gates, fill them in with concrete, but that resulted in the county then having to be able to pass the maximum flood event, or the probable flood event, which was the 43,900 cubic feet per second volume. In order to do that, as you guys all know, we reconfigured the pulleys on the 5 steel tainer gates so that they could open to a larger opening passing that flow event. So that was
So there was an adjustment made there too then?
to be able to pass greater volume
of water.
those existing gates that were left intact. And this was all coordinated with the Federal Energy Regulatory Committee that is authorizes the operations, inspects the safety, and oversaw the entire implementation of the PFMA study. I know Commissioner Purvis sat in on many of those meetings as well and was well versed on the goings on, but it was a fairly complicated, drawn-out process, and had a considerable amount of review from the county, the dam operator, again, the Federal Energy Regulatory Committee, as well as the consultant engineers that were working on the project.
Well, and I met with both individuals, and one of them said that the water was a foot lower at his place than it was in 2010. So my opinion is that something worked, because the water was lower at his place in similar rain events. So.
Oh, okay, good to know.
Yeah, okay. That's good to have that. Thank you.
Yep.
Update kind of.
It's an old dam, very old dam, so. All right, we better move on. You got, I don't know, hope you can make it through some of these a little bit quicker maybe. I don't know if you can, but.
Depends how many questions I get.
Yeah, we wouldn't do that to you.
I will start, I'll try to keep it quick. Construction projects update.
Did we vote on that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did we vote on number 14?
Yeah.
I believe so, yep.
Yeah, we did.
We did.
Yeah.
I asked the
And then
question.
Mark had additional.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Out of order.
No, it was,
We already voted on it.
related to this, we already voted, no, this was relating to,
You want to ask some, because there was a write-up in
This
the
was not
paper, and there was some.
only related because we were talking about the
Yeah.
dam, okay?
So, no, that makes sense.
All right.
But I had forgotten that they had made the dam so that it actually can open up those gates a little farther, which allows more water over the spillway.
Yep.
So that's good. Thank you.
CASA 1 Old Highway 66 reconstruction project from 90 to Mankato and the South Surcharge areas. The contractor's working on rock excavation for reinforced soil slope wall number 3 near the Koborowski Tree Farm. Tree clearing is nearly completed north of 90. They're grading the pond and community garden site. The tree clearing for the surcharge number 1 in the chute area south of just south of 90, just north of 9 as you descend through, should be beginning very soon, maybe even tomorrow. And the county is coordinating archaeological investigation requirements with the consultants that are performing that work and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. That's required to be completed and approved prior to doing the surcharge area number 2 through the De Santiago property.
Okay.
CASA 14 from 4 to 10 is open to traffic. The contractor is going to wrap up the final shaping, turf established, miscellaneous cleanup work this week. So that should be buttoned up by the end of the week if the weather holds out. CASA 12, stage 5, they're also working on the final shaping and turf establishment. They did open the section from Minnesota Highway 83 to Carver Road and the segment of Hoffman Road yesterday. So that is open to traffic passing through. And the contractor is resuming work on the segment from Carver to County Road 17, including storm sewer at the south side of the 17 roundabout. And they're able to resume grading work this week with the drier conditions.
Wow.
Everything's kind of
Great.
at the point where we can resume. So we lost.
Amazing what a week of dry weather will do.
Absolutely. You know, unfortunately, we lost about 3 weeks with all of the rainfall, but
We understand that.
That's such a wet area anyways.
absolutely, it's pretty wet soils out there. CASA 90 and Minnesota Highway 22 roundabout. I spoke with MnDOT's project manager this morning. Their pavement and other removals are underway. And I know there was quite a bit of hubbub about the detour traffic, creating quite a bit of hardship for some of the townships. That really has settled down significantly. I think people are accepting and understanding and have found their desired detour routes, and they're a little less impact on the gravel roads that surround that area. County Road 109, the paving and final striping and such in shoulders project. The final shaping and turf establishment will be completed this week, so the striping will have to go on, and then that'll be wrapped up as well.
That's a nice road.
It is. It turned out very nice. Absolutely. 2018 bituminous overlays, the paving has been completed. The remaining shouldering is happening this week, so those will be wrapped up as well. CASA 52, the bridge that we approved the grant agreement for, the contractor's working on the remaining approach grading. The bridge work is complete with the exception of the railing still needs to be installed. Pleasant Mountain Township bridge replacement, the bridge is completed. They're working on the remaining approach grading there as well. So both of those bridge projects are wrapping up here in the next couple of weeks. Eagle Lake Public Water Access, it was funded by the DNR grant. The project has been completed. The DNR has inspected and approved the work, and it's open to the public. So our staff will be working on making final payments to the contractor and issuing reimbursement requests to the DNR for the project. So that really turned out to be a nice
It
project.
did turn out to be a nice asset over there.
Absolutely.
No picnic table yet.
No picnic table?
Are we gonna get one out there?
Oh, I guess I didn't even notice
It'd be
that,
nice.
yeah.
I mean, I had asked a long time ago if we could maybe consider putting a nice little picnic table out there, just for people that are going in and out, or, I see 4 or 5 people parked over there, got their boats, or they got, whatever it might be, and it'd be nice to
Got it under the trees?
Yeah, just
Under
one
some
picnic
trees.
table, would be nice.
We'll make a note. The River Park Drive Homeland Security Emergency Management Hazard Mitigation Grant Project of the Johnson property. We acquired the property on July 5th. The demolition contract will start very soon.
Wow.
So we finally got the grant amendment authorized. It took a considerable amount of time,
Yeah.
but that way we got a higher level of funding to cover all of the project costs.
We didn't lose any more of the house.
A few of the foundation blocks have fallen in, but the river levels have subsided to where it is what it is. We'll have the contracts approved, I would anticipate, by the end of this week. In fact, I don't know if they made their way to you for signature yet, but, or you may have signed the contracts already, but they'll be coming around for
Yeah, I haven't seen.
for signatures on the bonds as well.
You're right, though, the smaller rivers we drive out, they've gone down fast, but the Minnesota
Yep.
is still pretty high, I'll tell you.
Yeah, even look at the Blue Earth downstream of Rapidan Dam where it's gauged. At one point again, we were passing tremendous flows, and it subsided last week at a drop below 10,000. So we were able to reopen the Rapidan Dam County Park.
Okay, yeah. I got one call on that too. Somebody saw it closed, and
Yep.
we talked a little bit about that.
We got calls too, and people were frustrated with it, but it's a safety measure that's necessary. Again,
Yeah.
part of the emergency action plan with the dam.
Somebody had told them that it was permanently closed. And,
Fake news.
Fake news.
Fake news and Blue Earth
No, but we
County.
had a good conversation and talked about the park.
The media's here, but it's not really that fake, yeah.
All right. The 2018 Highway Safety Improvement Program projects, a lot of roads. I think I've got them listed out, so I won't read them all. Start date is to be determined. We're also in process of updating that safety plan, so we'll have some additional projects identified in that. That's a very good tool for our staff.
And that's, when you do those kind of things, that's when you're fixing like shoulders and...
Yeah, paving shoulders, rumble stripes, rumble strips, chevrons, wider striping, all of those kind of low-cost, high-impact safety measures that can be applied across the system. And we'll actually be having, probably in October or November, we'll actually be having a workshop that you'll all be invited to if you wish to attend. Not mandatory, but we'll be working with some of our community partners towards law enforcement, towards zero death, emergency response. All of those folks will be invited to a workshop where we'll be working through some of the components of the county highway safety plan.
You mean at the conference, or?
No, it'd be held at Public Works.
Oh, it is?
Or
You know when that is?
I have I'll email it to you. You'll be copied with an invitation to it.
I mean, well in advance, it'd be good to know, so I can...
Yep.
The day before it will work, right?
No.
I did notice when I was out driving County Road 27, I think, but they did the new fog lines. Are we doing wider fog lines? They looked wide.
If we did them,
Was 27 or?
27's on the list, and I don't.
Okay, maybe it was over by St. Clair. Was this someplace I went and I just noticed the fog
If we had
lines?
done them before wider as part of an HSIP project, we continue
Oh, you do?
the
Okay.
6-inch striping on
very
there.
nice.
6 or 8, you know?
They're sick. They look
Six.
nice.
6,
Six.
okay.
but boy, they're nice. Even
good.
probably from 4. I mean, I was driving during the day, I just noticed that they
Yeah.
were wider.
Yeah,
That's nice.
if we had
That'd
done
be
them in
really
the
nice when
past,
it's rainy
we'll
and-
continue to put wider striping.
It'll be nice when it's rainy and
Absolutely.
Oh, man.
dark out.
So that was one of my other points, is our maintenance striping contract. They've completed their first mobilization. They'll be back in mid-September after we've completed our seal coating, but we've
Okay.
gotten to a point, we're doing about half the county every year at least of restriping, so.
It was
becoming-
177 over by St. Clair.
Okay.
Yeah, don't matter. I just noticed it.
All right. Planning projects updates, 1 from 9 to 90. The plans are ready for MnDOT submittal. We're just kind of holding them as we work with some of the landowners for right-of-way acquisition. So if there are any minor tweaks that need to be made, we're able to make those before we submit. And then we're also working on the remaining permitting as well.
Any solutions in place yet for the end of, final solutions yet for the end of that portion, that right by 90 north of?
No,
south of 90?
we need to follow up with the landowners. We're going to solicit a second bid for the work.
Okay.
To see. 14, the plans are complete. This is for the south segment from Minnesota Highway 30 to Cassaw 4. Permits have been submitted, and Jack is beginning to meet with landowners for right-of-way acquisition. We're hopeful we can get it out this late summer or fall, but as time continues to march on, it is challenging with the workload that's presented with the Turnback project and some of our other work to acquire all the necessary right-of-way and permits for all of the work that we've got in front of us. On Cassaw 10, from the Blue Earth River to County State Highway 1, the design is progressing well to the point where we've scheduled a public open house meeting. That is scheduled for August 7th from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. We'll be sending notices out within the next week or so you'll be copied on those as well, but I wanted to give you a heads up that that'll be the date of your August board meeting in the evening.
Okay.
And 17 in Hafner Roundabout, we've sent out requests for proposals for design engineering services. Those are due back this Friday, so we should have an idea of who we'll be working with here in the very near future. We're also working with MnDOT district staff, attempting to obtain some remaining highway safety improvement program dollars towards the 2019 construction project. So there is a balance of HSIP funds available, and I want to be cautiously optimistic that I think we've got a pretty good chance at getting them, but it's not in hand just quite yet or authorized, but it could be upwards of $500,000.
Nice.
Wow, that'd be good.
So we're pushing on that and doing whatever we can to support getting those funds. And again, I think we have a good chance, but it's not official yet. And with that, I'd open it up to any additional questions.
Chair?
Yes, Commissioner Swinburne.
I've noticed that Adams Street looks like it's almost completed, if not completed.
Yep.
To County Road 12. Is there talk about putting a roundabout there, or what's
There have
in
been
the...
discussions. I attended a meeting with some of the landowners in the city of Mankato about the potential for a future roundabout. As you recall, the design in what's constructed out there now will be a restricted access crossing, so it's effectively a 3/4 access intersection. So the Adams Street traffic will not be able to extend through nor take a left out, which are the two most dangerous turning movements. Because of the proximity of the roundabouts directly to the north and to the south, they'll be utilizing effectively an R-cut type of scenario. That was included in the design on the heels of the 17 and Hafner intersection challenges that we were facing. They are interested in pursuing a roundabout. However, it would have to, as I had expressed to the city and the landowners, it would have to include some form of the landowners paying for a share of the project. Now, how that gets to be worked out, whether the county, how much of a share the county has, how much of a share the city has, and how much of a share that could be assessed as part of the development agreement, yet to be determined. However, I did inform them we do not have that project on our 5-year capital improvement plan. We have many other intersections that, in my opinion, are more pressing because of the current traffic levels that they're facing.
Okay. Another road that I continually get questioned on since I'm on the Airport Commission is County Road 12 going out to the county line. What's our time frame on?
That's in the CIP. 2021 or 2022, I don't recall off the top of my head.
Okay.
But we do have that project included, I believe.
Okay.
But yes, that's definitely on the radar as far as Mankato area projects that should be completed. That is our vision to reconstruct that piece or widen it so that it's more of a continuous corridor.
Now, are we talking like a 3-lane there where we have a turning lane in the middle and one on each
That's what I
side?
would anticipate, but we'll have to do some engineering analysis when we get closer to the project.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, I got one question, if I may.
Okay.
I might have missed it. When's 12 supposed to be open? Or not, 12, or the Carver at the roundabout of Hoffman, and then,
Yeah, that's open.
it is open, okay. I was minded the other day it wasn't
Yep,
open.
so it opened yesterday evening.
Oh, it did, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
The remaining project, obviously it's all weather dependent and contractor's operations dependent, but the contract date as it stands now is August 15th
Right, yeah.
for opening the entire segment.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Chair.
Any other questions?
All right.
Thank you. Well, thanks a lot.
Have a good day.
Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
And look forward to having you come back and give us another full report.
All right.
So our next item of business here is our new tax system contract. And we've got Miss Tiffany Ahern, our business analyst with IT, and then we've got Mr. Michael Stahlberger, our taxpayer services director. Welcome.
Good morning.
Hi.
Good morning. Thank you all for making some time for us today. We are page 104 in your packet if you are following along.
Yep.
Tiffany and I are here both today as project leads for this new project, which will be a multi-year project that will be touching multiple departments across the county. And so what we're looking for today is approval of the contract. We're going to do a quick refresher. If you remember back in February, we visited with you at a work session walking through our investigation of different viable systems that would be available in Minnesota, and then our selection of the Tyler Technologies product. And so we can actually start with that if you want to flip through with me. What we ended up doing is we started out with what our current state was, and the two systems that we operate to support our tax collection and assessment functions are a Thomson Reuters product called Aumentum, and then a Vanguard appraisals system, which is on the appraisal side. We've had those systems for at least 10 years, as you can see by the go-live dates provided on that slide, and those programs interact and integrate with many other county-wide systems that we use. That public-facing Beacon information system for our taxpayers, as well as online payment options and other functionality. The department went down the path of looking for a replacement for the tax system for three primary reasons, those being stability, efficiency, and integration opportunities. We needed to ensure that we have a continually reliable system that will perform well for the needs of our departments in collecting the property taxes, distributing the property taxes, and making sure that we have a fair and equitable assessment. That also required us having confidence in our vendors that they have a product roadmap that's going to keep up with the changing technologies as we see that landscape change almost continuously. We also looked at any new system for the efficiency that it can provide our departments. It was an opportunity for us to look at our processes, the way that we currently complete our business transactions, and see if there's a way to change that or improve that to provide more service value for our customers. We also included in there the ability to switch to a cloud-based solution. That is the direction that a lot of the software providers are switching to. Our current systems are in-house, and they're actually managed by Tiffany and other folks in the IT department. And so we were looking for a cloud-based solution which would allow us to share that workload with the vendor.
So that's actually going to be a part of this process?
Correct, yep, and so the solution that we've selected, the Tyler IAS World solution, Tiffany will get into that a little bit more about how that is a cloud-based solution that will be available across the network for folks to use.
Yep, so Tyler Technologies, after much review of the small marketplace for Minnesota property tax systems, was the best solution, in our opinion. IAS World Appraisal and Tax Software has been around for quite a while. Just Tyler's commitment to technological growth and that they're solely government focused, and they also offer so many other products, Munis, which we currently use, so there's some potential there as well. But with Tyler, just to touch on a few things, they have an ever guide philosophy, which is to work in conjunction with their clients to make sure that they're utilizing the system to its fullest potential and to make sure that they're using the latest features and functionality. They have an evergreen perpetual licensing feature, which when there are upgrades and new versions of the product, we can get that at little to no cost, as that's built right into our licensing or our software as a service fees. They have an online community of over 40,000 users, which we're currently benefiting from Munis, where we can ask questions and talk to other clients. We can access knowledge base articles and documents for any questions that we may have. And then finally, they have a connected communities philosophy, which is connecting all of your data and your people and your processes across your organization to make your government more transparent and to be able to display data from multiple systems in a more meaningful manner. So Tyler's connected communities philosophy is called Tyler Nexus, and that's really a forward-thinking approach in which how can we take all of our facets of our county government and take our data and put it together and meaningfully display that so that we can make quicker and better decisions. So that is a future opportunity that we recognize with the vast variety of products that Tyler offers and how they're all connected. So we see a lot of potential there with just, integrating our data more closely and getting more from our data and our systems. A quick rundown of IS World, like Mike mentioned, it's cloud-based, web-based. It's a fully hosted solution by our vendor Tyler in a data center in Texas, here in the United States. It integrates with third-party systems like Pictometry and Esri for GIS and aerial photography. It's a fully integrated solution. So it includes your appraisal, your assessment, your tax, and payment information all in one database. Today we have 2 databases that we maintain for 2 different systems. It has a customizable user interface so that we can display the data that's meaningful to us. There's a public access feature that's similar to Beacon. And it has a mobile application that will allow our appraisers in the field to stay connected to the CAMA and tax information that they need while they're out appraising. So currently Tyler has about 127 IS World clients in the United States and Canada and in the Bahamas. So that's over 300 jurisdictions. There are currently 3 Minnesota clients that are fully implemented. There are 3 more Minnesota implementations in progress, and there are a handful of other Minnesota counties that are actively pursuing the solution as well.
And that is actually one of the things that we valued as we visited with the Tyler folks, was that they do make sure that they don't overcommit to clients. And so there are 3 clients already in place for implementation in Minnesota, as Tiffany mentioned, and assuming that we would have favorable action on the contract today, they've worked with us to set a project timeline that fits their schedule and also works with us. So they aren't going to commit to us unless they know that they can make sure we reach a successful implementation. And so the way they have that project laid out is that we would begin an actual kickoff with the Tyler implementation specialists in very early 2019. That would result in some requirements and gap analysis work, making sure that our processes line up with their product, and if there are any gaps, then we would either rectify our processes or have them build a new product functionality. That'll occur in 2019 as well. Then they'll actually begin the nitty-gritty of the data conversion and the implementation in 2020 into 2021, with go live aiming for July and then end of year 2021. So this is a multi-year project. We've also began work already internally. Tiffany's been leading some process documentation exercises with our various tax and assessing staff so that we understand what processes we are doing right now. We have them documented so that we can explain those to the folks at Tyler as they're trying to understand how we do things. And so just to kind of show you some of that complexity as we work through that, Tiffany has already begun working on process documentation. So this is just a hierarchical chart of all the different functions that we have in our assessing and tax areas. And it maps out what we're going to do. So each one of these little boxes then will get in-depth documentation of the processes and how it integrates with other systems. And this is actually the one that I think is more meaningful as we start working on that. This is how our 2 current systems, the yellow and the blue in the center, those are our 2 current systems and how they touch all the different functionalities that our offices do and then what our partners do in the state and at the local level. And so these are all the functionalities that we're going to be able to bring into IES World and have those integrations come off of one point rather than trying to maintain them all through two. So we're looking at some increased efficiencies through new process documentation, new process functionality, as well as just having it all in one system that will be web-based. So we're quite excited for the opportunity. As I said, we're looking for an approval of the contract, or excuse me, the agreement. It's an agreement because it is for software as a service with Tyler IAS World. You can see the details listed there. It is set at an estimated $1.6 million. The estimated, it's listed as an estimation because they bill for time and materials for any on-site training as necessary. They've estimated in what they would assume our project would require, and that's built into that. But anything that would change from that would be a change order that would have to be agreeable to both parties as we move forward. Also, at the direction of our IT department, they did ask us to lock in a 4th and 5th year of contract. The $1.6 million covers 3 years with implementation. So the 4th and 5th years after that would be at an escalator limited rate of the 206 or the $216,000. So that's what we're looking for approval today. We do have all of that budgeted through the capital budgets, either at the organizational level through IT or through the department's level at taxpayer services. We also have operating budget plans in place to cover some of the added work. We do recognize this is going to be a very labor-intensive project. Any implementation of this size is going to be, and so we have tried to plan proactively for that. As you work through your budget requests, you'll see that we've made some strategic requests there to help us get through the project. But it is something that our team is ready to work towards. So if you have any questions for myself or for Tiffany, we'd be happy to answer them, or else we'd be looking for the motion to approve.
I've got some questions.
Absolutely.
You know, we're using the other two technologies right now. You just quickly highlighted at the beginning of the packet. And then, I don't remember, because it's been quite a while, but you had like put together a committee, hadn't you, to kind of look at all this? There was a committee of people?
Sure. So when we investigated a replacement to the Amentum into the CAMA solution, we did bring in folks from finance. IT's been involved to try to figure out what would be a best solution for us. Tiffany mentioned, admittedly in Minnesota, with how complex our system is, there are really only 3 viable solutions that have proven themselves in Minnesota. Tyler being one of them, our current one being another one, and then there's a third product really that is available at a statewide level in Minnesota. There's a couple other minor players in the state, but they were not open to new clients, or they wouldn't fit us because they're more built for different sort of schemes. So we went through the 3 options that we had investigations, conversations with those vendors, went on site to tour some of those properties, and that included multiple departments.
Okay. And at that time, I'm sure you did some sort of a cost analysis too. I mean, it's hard to do it sometimes because this is a multi-dimensional and multi-departmental project. Trying to integrate, you know, looking at staff time, staff demands, you know, all those kinds of things too, whether we're going to have to hire more people or whatever as time goes on, and efficiencies. What do you think the estimates were? Because it looks like the annual fee is almost $200,000.
Correct.
For this one, and I just was wondering, you know, about approximately the cost of what we're doing business as now.
Yes, so we did do that analysis because there is some sticker shock associated with that $200,000 figure. I felt it, Tiffany felt it, I think we can talk for any of the other department heads here who saw that number, and that is quite an increase. It's really hard to do a comparison to that because the product that we'll be receiving under the Tyler solution is significantly different than what we currently have with the integration pieces and that sort of stuff. So we're kind of comparing, we're not doing an apples to apples comparison there. We have an organic apple maybe compared to a regular apple or something like that, where you're getting more for your money in that regard. Right now we are sitting at, I'm looking to Tiffany to help me with that.
70,000.
Yeah, when we add up all the products, we're at about 70,000, but what we aren't including in that is any of the added labor that we have to put into doing an upgrade or downgrade. That's the licensing fees and whatnot. It also doesn't take into account any of the efficiencies. Right now our staff spends a significant amount of time in the beginning of every year uploading data from one system to the other, checking that data, making sure that it transferred over correctly, and doing that in our 2 different environments, whereas right now that will be seamless. We'll be able to change the way that we do business and work through that. So yeah, we go from about 70,000 to 200,000, but we're moving that off-site, so we're shifting that work of supporting that database rather than having that live in IT. Yeah. We're going to gain some efficiencies. So
That chart you have, can you hold it up one more time?
Yeah, I can
see that.
This one or the other one?
That one.
You can
So,
actually,
I just,
do you want it? No, I can hold it for you, maybe it's easier.
okay, yeah, it's, yeah, hold it in front of you, there. That's the current
Yep.
This is
system.
current state. So this is how both of our Mentum, our tax system, and our CAMA system interact with either different departments within the county at the state level, like the DOR, the Department of Education, other jurisdictions, other software systems. So that's all of the information that's being exchanged.
So the first thing we'll recognize under the Tyler solution is these will
One big
become
circle.
one, and then they integrate very seamlessly with Munis, which is another one of their products. If you go to your packet, you have that colorful slide that has many product lines listed in there. So that's going to integrate more closely there. They do have a public-facing option, which would be similar to our Beacon product. So we were able to start taking through some of those pieces and saying, okay, we can clean that up through integrations.
So Beacon will go away eventually.
Beacon could potentially go away, that will likely go away. It won't be immediate because we
Yeah.
have to get through implementation, but they have a public-facing portal, which I don't remember the name of right now.
Public access.
That's my
Wait a
concern.
minute, so public, is that, instead of Beacon word, the Beacon, is that a trademark? I mean.
Beacon is a product.
It's a
that we-
product.
I mean, no, it's a product, but, so we can't call it Beacon anymore because it'll be
Yeah, we.
public access or something?
Yeah,
Tyler?
we purchased it.
That's all I was just wondering, because the Beacon was good. that
Yeah,
one.
yeah.
So if, let's just say 2021 rolls around, you've got all these different departments. There'll be more efficiencies in the relationship with the information sharing that occurs. So potentially, a person could figure out some savings, couldn't they? Because I'm just trying to figure out in my mind, doubling or tripling the costs annually
Correct.
for just the licensing part of it, for the efficiencies. Because I know in general, the philosophy that we've heard as commissioners is that if there's a really efficient product out there for technology, over time, there's efficiencies and savings that are realized. And I think it's good for us to know something about that because we're representing the general population who pays for this. And so I would assume that there's going to be some kind of savings over time. That's my question, because I hope there was some discussion about this, not just the efficiencies in making it easier for staff, but that there's going to be some savings over time in efficiencies as we go forward. And the other thing is, the other question I have then is, right now, anybody out here in Blue Earth County or any county can go onto the Beacon system anywhere. And they can zero in on properties and get the basic information that's public information. Find out, what was sold for, find out the approximate dimensions of the property, find out, the taxes that are being charged through our tax system, all those kind of things. Those things. Will this new system have the same visibility and openness to the general public as our Beacon system?
Yes, it will.
And I figure that's why.
That's what you were alluding to.
With the name.
Yeah.
Because Beacon was a kind of a neat name, so I was wondering how that.
Yep, as you think of Beacon now, it will actually be living within the IAS World solution, and it has a public access.
And they better come up with something shorter though for that segment.
Yeah, but it'll just be 3 or 4 counties, maybe, unless some other ones are doing it in 2021. There's just a very small number of counties that will be under this Tyler Technologies. Correct?
Yep, we will be number 6 to implement, and there's a couple
6 in
behind
the
us.
state?
Yep, we're behind, Dakota County is implemented already, Olmsted is implemented, and Noka is actually going, they're going even more into the Tyler solution. They're bringing all of their product lines, so recording, everything is going into Tyler.
Crow Wing will be live January of 2019.
Scott County is going to be just before us, then it'll be us, and then there's a couple other clients that we're not able to discuss publicly right now that will be coming on board.
Okay. Yeah, it's a big project, and I think it warrants, I hope you don't mind me asking the questions.
No, we did the exact same thing. That was a large increase in operating costs.
Commissioner Stuenberg?
My concern is, will the state be up to par to receive the updated information? We can update our information, but as we found out with vehicle registration, the state of Minnesota is far behind and can't keep up with the counties across the state of Minnesota. Is the state going to be up there so they can take this type of information? Are we going to be spending all this money and we can't even use it through the state of Minnesota because they have backward systems?
Sure. Very interesting question, Commissioner. The simple answer to that question is that the state sets parameters for us to deliver information to them, and they expect us to comply with that. So they make us conform to their level of programming, not the other way around. Like with MNLARS, they were responsible for everything, and they fell short of expectations in there. They're expecting us to meet what they want, so they don't have that same issue. Tyler does already integrate with the state in the reporting that's required. They call that PRISM, because they have fancy names for everything. MNLARS, it's PRISM for land records related information. So that integration piece is already created, and this will work with it. If I want to give you a more in-depth answer to that question, as we looked at the Tyler product is the one solution that seems to be able to fit the entire state, whereas some of these other solutions don't work well in certain areas or for certain functionality. So if I wanted to look into a crystal ball, if the state was ever going to say this is the standard and this is the route that we want to go for a solution, I would see Tyler being one of the very leading contenders for that, which would set us up well. Because no longer then would we need to integrate to a state level, the rest of the state would be coming to the standard that we already would be adopting or have adopted. That's me looking into a crystal ball and saying what looks like it would work best for the state. But that's where I would see it. I think it sets us up well either way. We know it's going to communicate now, and if it becomes the standard, then we're already there. We're ahead of the game.
All right. And so there's not there's not a definitive thing that you can say about the savings or the efficiencies going forward as far as, the one thing that speaks to me and probably speaks to the rest of these commissioners here before you is that you said Dakota County has adopted it, and we know that Dakota County is pretty on top of a lot of things. We also know that Olmsted County, you said it, we know that county has a very good reputation of looking at systems.
Absolutely.
And trying to be efficient in what they're doing. So that speaks something right there, without having to go into deeper, maybe too deep. But
and I would say the same thing for Crow Wing County. Crow Wing County is a very good model of being efficient, and so when they selected that system, that's good. We're behind a series of very progressive counties in terms of making sure that the system is going to provide the best services. So,
and then Crow Wing is comparable in population.
And aside from that, once we're in the system with Tyler Technologies, the thing that's scary, I think, to some people and the commissioners, we go to these meetings with other commissioners, and from counties all over the state on a regular basis. And you get locked into a system, and then all of a sudden they decide to double their fees or 30% increase because their travel expenses went up. No, I'm just throwing that out there, but that's sometimes what happens. And so are there any percentages in the contract? I hadn't looked at, obviously the whole contract isn't here, but
and actually you do have the full contract if you want to read it.
That's all there is to the contract. It's not a very big contract then. I just read the whole thing while you were talking.
Yeah. Oh, so we've got the 100 and some pages is their typical contract for software as a service.
Yeah, I read almost the whole thing while you were talking. Really, and so, what's so funny?
No, I thought you said you read it right now.
I did, and I didn't see anything in there about safeguards for future expenses. In fact, I saw more safeguards for them, making sure they get their money annually. So I just want to make sure that there's
safeguards that we locked in were the additional couple years of an escalator limited service cost. So they went out 5 years, which is pretty typical. We could have asked them to go out further than 5 years and lock in top rates, but then they would have set much higher rates.
They were.
So we've got 3 years locked in, then the additional 2 years we have the ability to say we want to continue with you and here's your rate, or if for some reason that we would need to terminate, which
so it's kind of an adventure then.
It is going to be, but that is under our current product right now, we are actually in the same boat. Our current tax system was a 3-year contract with a 2-year renewal, right? So same situation.
So those rates could go up.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I think through this discussion, kind of along your lines of the savings, I think it's really hard to quantify, first of all. Almost impossible. But I think is what I kind of heard was that, this could be a labor saving source in the future. So not that we'd be able to lay anybody off or get rid of any staff, but this could be, after it's up and running, we might not have to add as many as fast. But again, it's hard to quantify that, and I'm not going to pin you in a corner and say what Mike said, that we're not going to hire any staff if we get the system. But that's kind of what I'm understanding and hearing.
And very valid. I mean, like, we can take Tiffany as example. So right now she supports the Aumentum solution, does upgrades, does
Like fixes that come out.
then I can, so those hours we can quantify right now, and once this project is implemented, that work is going to go away. There's going to be some reporting stuff that she'll help out with, but that's going to go away. So we can quantify that amount. But it is the efficiencies that we'll gain, where right now we have Angela Nelson, who is our CAMA specialist, who spends a couple weeks in the beginning of the year figuring out how to get that data from our CAMA system to the tax system, making sure it's working, and then we've got Stacy Thorson and her team that's receiving that data, proving that data, and going through a very manual process. We can quantify those hours and turn that into savings, but they're going to likely turn that into work that is newly complex because the state creates a new program that we have to administer, or we continue to grow in size of the community and we have more properties to assess.
Which would probably all happen even if we had
so
this old system.
We're able to hopefully shift some of that work to something that adds a little bit more value for the county and for the community, rather than passing data back and forth and checking data. So yeah, we can quantify it to some extent, but it's hard to say, yep, this is all tied out nicely and here's the bottom line figure for it.
Well, just the transferring the data and having it more accurate, to me, would make a lot of sense. If you're manually checking it, you're doing just a piece of the manual check. I can't imagine you're checking all 30,000 parcels to make sure it transferred right. So you're taking snapshots. What if one gets missed? So to me, that's huge right there. So
There's a lot of proofing and a lot of extra reports that get run right now just to make sure that the data from both systems match, since they're coming from two sources. But even just that recognized future opportunity where, how can our departments work together now that we're kind of going down this Tyler path of systems?
Sure.
And I continue to come back to their entire product suite, and you look at some of those other opportunities that might be out there with permitting or something like that, online bill pay, all those features. Those are things that we can look at down the road as we're trying to place the county. And maybe you look at some of those other solutions that all fall under that same umbrella too. So that's where we said there's just a lot of potential there to improve the way that we do things.
Well, I appreciate the time you gave us for the work session. Again, this is way over my head as far as technology goes, but I appreciate the information and trying to summarize it and help us understand it. So thank you. I have another question. I would move approval.
I will second it.
All right, we've got a motion for approval and a dual second.
There you go.
I was saying that's what I want to do that in the beginning, because usually you get the motion on the table and you have questions. Okay.
So, any other discussion items or comments?
No, I support the new system. I think the one we have has had its challenges too, so I think this will be good going forward.
Okay. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thanks a lot.
Thanks for the information.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, next item of business we've got here on our schedule. We've got Ms. Lisa Malinsky here, our finance director, and to talk about our audit adjustments from 2017 and letter to the Minnesota State Auditor.
Good morning.
Good morning, Lisa.
Morning, Lisa.
Good morning.
So I'm here to talk about the audit. The past audit, we have some audit adjustments. This is what we do every year after the audit. The first is the approving the revenue budget adjustments. Those changes were under $300,000, very immaterial changes to all the different funds.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion for approval on the adjustments and a second. Is there some discussion?
I don't have any questions.
Nope.
Okay.
We actually have three different...
There's three different ones, so we have to do on each one, don't we?
So the first one's the revenue budget adjustments. The second one is the expenditure budget adjustments.
But don't we have to can we do a motion on each one of them?
I think that's what we did last year.
Then we gotta a motion and a second, so we'll have to vote on that.
We should vote on that. We can do separate,
Yep.
right? Yeah. Do it separate.
There's the two different, or the three different categories.
Right.
So how do you want us to do
So
it?
Chair, I have a motion and
Yeah.
a second on the
Yeah.
revenue budget adjustments. I think
Okay.
you should vote
Thank
on
you.
that and then do the expenditures followed by the third.
All right,
I was
thank
getting
you.
at.
I thought we did them in 3 last year, that's why I started that way, so.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. And now we're going on to the expenditure budget adjustments for 2017. Was 105,952, and now it's 112,76, correct?
Yes.
I would move that.
Second?
Okay, we've got a motion for approval and a second on the budget adjustments for 2017. Any comments or discussion? Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. And then we move on now here to the financing sources for the budget adjustments for 2017.
Financing sources and uses include transfers in and out, bond proceeds, anything that's kind of an other category.
Move approval.
Second?
Okay, we've got a motion for approval and a second on these budget adjustments. Is there any questions or discussions on that? Is it much different than past years?
No.
It's pretty similar, isn't it? Usually a lot of it has to do with public works and other different, whatever department might have some changes.
Right. The public works were due to the CASAD 12 being pushed off a little bit.
Yeah.
And then the other main changes come with the refinancing the lease revenue bonds and those transfers.
Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Okay, Lisa.
So the next area I have is the request to change auditors. The legislative added state statute saying counties can now choose. We need to send a letter to the state auditor by August 1st of our intent to change auditors for the 2019 audit.
Okay.
I would
Means we have
move,
to do, yeah, we have to move it now then.
I would move that we send the letter to the Minnesota State Auditor with our intent to change.
Second.
And then, so there's a deadline by that, correct? I mean, that's why
Yes.
we're doing this.
Yes.
Okay, so we have a deadline, it's like, is it August or?
August 1st.
August 1st of even years, so you can only do it every other year.
Okay. And then we'll put out a request for, an official request for proposals, the staff will.
We had already sent out requests for information.
Yeah.
So the next process would be to have the selection committee start looking at those proposals. We wanted to send those out to get what the savings would be and way of cost.
Yeah.
So we wanted to get that information for you.
Isn't it true that we're talking about a savings to the county around $20,000 per year?
Yes.
Okay. And the only question I had, which I hadn't heard back, but I just heard back now. I wanted to find out what a desk review was of the, and I found out what that was approximately. It's usually probably around $3,000, I think.
And so far, they've released counties before and they haven't done reviews.
Oh.
So that's not a given that they're going to do that.
It's not automatic.
Right.
Okay, because I was just concerned about the additional cost. If it was like another $5,000 or $10,000, and they got to do that anyway,
And they did look at 3 counties that they had released, one being Roseau. I talked to Roseau this morning, and they didn't even get billed for that.
Okay.
They also looked at Hennepin, which they released, and that was less than $5,000. So it's a very minor amount if they do decide
Compared
to
to
review
25.
the audits.
Yeah. You know what we're talking about?
the state auditor still does a desk review of the, whoever we hire.
They can.
They can.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, the
they-
statute gives them the right to do that.
Okay.
Well, being that
we
Hennepin
haven't
County is like
seen-
100 times larger than Blue Earth County, I would say that's probably a pretty
Pretty small number.
Pretty small
if
number.
it
Yeah, it
does
is.
happen.
Yeah. Okay, well, any further discussion there? Do we have a motion and a second?
We have a motion,
Yeah.
yep.
Any further discussion on or questions about,
Yeah, I think it's...
creating this letter.
Yeah, it's time, and like I said, if you notice the statutes, the county's about the only ones that have to tell the choice here.
Yeah.
We're the only ones that we had to use the auditor. Cities, and
Right.
townships, or school boards, whatever, didn't have to. And
to my-
I say, and then I would just add a footnote that what happened to the state treasurer, which we don't have one anymore, the auditor's probably going the same route.
Yeah.
Because of all the...
It is hard for the state auditor to compete since they do have to bill out
Per
their
hour.
hours where
Yeah.
CPA firms can do, this is going to be the maximum.
And that's typically how those contracts work with the
Yes.
local CPAs.
Yes.
They won't go over the amount that they say they're.
Correct.
Okay, so, all right, well, that's good to know. That's what I was going to ask you. All right, anything else? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Lisa.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Appreciate it. And let's see what we have next on our business agenda here, if I can find my agenda. I'm looking at this letter here instead. We've got the county attorney's office update. Mr. Pat McDermott, our county attorney.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, thank you. The information essentially that I've provided speaks for itself. It will show that we are up in some areas, down in some other areas. A couple of things that I would like to point out. I don't know if you've been paying attention in the media the last few days. There was some recent information relating to the BCA releasing information with respect to specific crimes, and there was nothing really new in the respect that a spike in crimes. What we deal with, again, I've told you this before, is easily 95% of what we deal with is fueled by drugs, alcohol, and mental illness. Within that, with this growing region, our numbers are not out of line comparing us to other counties. I've shared that information with all of you at various points in time. The thing to remember to keep in mind is with the growth in this area, we just need to be on top of and take care of the challenges that we have, and I think that we've been doing a good job of that. You know, Greater Mankato Growth, again, would tell you that we have 250,000 people coming in and out of this community on a daily basis. Blue Earth County is the youngest county in the state. We also have the highest per capita retail sales in the state, which means that we've got a lot of activity going on here. You don't have to go very far. MSU is the second largest university in the state. You couple that with Bethany and the other academics of institutions of higher learning in the area. We've got many things going on around here. But if you have any specific questions, I would be more than happy to answer them. I would just point out to you one small change in the report is to try to coincide with the actual school year for all the school districts in the county. The truancy filings and the truancy numbers are kept on a school year basis and not on, the other ones are kept on a calendar basis. So we keep those on a school year basis. It just makes a little bit more sense going forward to do it that way. But if you have any specific questions, concerns, or comments, I'd be more than happy to answer.
Does the board have any questions or comments?
Just to make it, I understand what you meant when you said we are the youngest county. Could you explain that further? I mean that's an average per capita.
That's an average age of the citizens in Blue Earth County, and the reason I think that that's significant with respect to what we do is most crimes are committed by individuals 18 to 24 years old. So when we have a large population comparatively, and as being the youngest county in the state, that it's, again, nothing out of whack comparing us to other counties around the state on a per 100,000 basis. We're pretty much right in line on many of these areas. We do have our specialty programs, our diversion programs, where we try to keep some of these individuals out of court, our drug court, veterans court, family chemical dependency court, other programs with respect to juvenile diversion, the truancy intervention program, trying to be a little bit more progressive and going above and beyond. Typically, when people think of the criminal justice system, they want us to take care of the core services inside the courtroom, but we've taken the additional step to have these programs in place to try to deal with other things outside of the courtroom on a daily basis.
Thank you.
Thank you. I have a question. Sounds kind of silly, but I see tax court has gone up, I mean, consistently from, 16, 17, now 18, it's really kind of up there. I don't know, what's that about, is it?
Well, the tax court filings, and again, that has to do, what's not reflected in these numbers, and you'll see in some of the areas in the civil numbers, but what's not reflected in these numbers is with the growing economy and everything going on around here, the expansion, the continued growth, it presents many, many different challenges. And, Mr. Tilges was talking to you about one earlier today. So within that, it's when taxpayer services gets caught up or, with the increase in property values and whatnot, in that again, that the growth is good, but also within that, when you've seen it in the tax issues and especially, the ebb and flow and a few years ago with the agricultural prices and the agricultural land. Well, it's catching up in this area, and the housing market is again a hot market in this area. With the economic growth just comes the things with that, and it's the natural pains that go along with it.
So people are filing things, I mean, they're just civil cases, but I mean, they're filing things in court to clarify or to...
Well, and tax court is a specialty area, and that's an area that actually the tax court itself has been trying to get caught up. They were behind for years, and they've put a very big effort on a timing standpoint of making sure that these cases are addressed sooner rather than later. But it's just the process that has to go through from the appeal process of trying to appeal your property taxes and from a local standpoint. And then you get some of these big box stores, and they challenge them every year across the state, trying to see what they can do. So it's numerous filings for each county in many of these different areas. Anything else?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, so then we've got, are we already on to administrative services? Bob?
If you'd like to continue, I don't know if you wanted another break.
You want a short
Mr.
break?
Chair?
Let's take a
We
quick
could take
break.
a break. Yeah. All right, we'll take a short break. So we're back from a short break. Going to do some business here at the county board meeting. We've got administrative services with Bob Meyer here. I'll let you take the lead on that, Bob.
All right, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, first item is the county board minutes for June 26th.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion for approval and a second. And is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. We've got the bills, it looks like, Bob?
Yes, bills for June 21st and June 28th.
I will move the bill. Second.
Okay, we've got a motion for approval on the bills. And a second. Does anybody have any comments or any questions about the transactions in our packet?
Drew.
Commissioner Stuenberg.
I got the second week Lake Washington Sanitary District for $261,000. I have a pretty good idea, but maybe you can just explain that one. Revenue collected in others.
Yeah, that would be assessments that are collected
Just
for
the
the
assessments?
sanitary system, yeah.
Just seemed like a lot of money, but I can about imagine.
They get that, every year.
They've got a lot of people on their roll, don't they?
Yeah, I just wanted to bring it up.
Okay.
Otherwise, I don't have any other questions.
I've got one if nobody's going forward yet. This is about regarding those attorney's fees. In the first week, there's three, quite spaced out from each other, but there's three attorney's fees for the exact same amount of $2,000.
That's what I was wondering.
Betters, Wendt, and Chesley Law,
Vetters Wendt Law and Chesley's Law, and then Kohlmeyer-Hagen Law. There's 3 different firms, they all got exactly $2,000. Just trying to figure out what that might be.
These are contractual agreements we have with those firms to provide CHIPS representation.
Oh, okay.
So it's a set
Various
retainer, $2,000 a month. for
Okay, I
each of
remember
those.
when we did that. Yeah. I just didn't realize we had it with 3 different, we probably have more than 3. I don't know, maybe we have more than 3.
I thought there was a 4th one, but
Okay, I didn't see it. And then we've got DHS estate recoveries for $48,674. It says DHS.
So that's a payment, paying a portion of the proceeds on an estate that has been recovered, reimbursing the state for medical assistance expenses that they incurred. We get to keep a portion of those collections for the work that we do locally to recover those estate dollars, but the majority goes to the state.
Oh, okay. What percentage do we keep, you know about?
I believe it's
20?
25,
25.
but I've kind of lost track of some of those details.
I remember that now, yeah. And I remember doing some research on that. That was a very small part of why I ran even as commissioner was a letter I had gotten on estate recovery from Blue Earth County. I felt was worded in a way that was kind of accusatory and made you feel like you'd done something wrong. And then I found out later, as I dug in deeper, that much of that wording comes from the state of Minnesota.
All of the wording.
Or all of it?
All the wording, yes.
Okay.
Let's be clear on that.
Is there any motion or any movement to change the wording in that letter?
Not that I'm aware of.
Really? Does the county have the authority or the ability to send out their own letter that just, that's different than what the state sends for DHS?
No, we're an administrative arm of the state in terms of those programs, and they've centralized a lot of those functions in the state system, so it's an automated process that the state ultimately controls.
I'll just say, yeah. So, Mr. Chair, maybe that was, and now you should be running for a different office or something.
Yeah.
Trying to straighten that out.
No, and it's not just about this one though, too. I've had people in my office since I've been commissioner several times. I know it's just related to this issue, but state-generated letters, which people who are, I'll just say it, there have been immigrants that come to our community, and then our county mails those letters to them from Blue Earth County. And they're very difficult to get through because they try to be so overly inclusive and they sound somewhat accusatory or sound somewhat like, if this, then this, if this, then, and we can do this if you don't do this or something, and it makes you feel like they're just putting you under their thumb right away. And I think that there would be some way that counties could work with the state maybe then to get those letters written in a way that are more clearly understood by people. Because it does create issues. I know our Human Service Department, our Finance Department, helping with people with their financial issues have a trouble with those letters all the time. Okay, then League of Minnesota Cities Trust, $15,000. And I think that's still in the first week. League of Minnesota Cities Trust.
That is insurance that's provided to our drug task force, kind of working through our partnership with other cities that are involved in the drug task force. I think the insurance was initially purchased out of the League of Minnesota Cities Trust as opposed to the county's trust.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
Nope, I don't have anything.
Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. And then move on to HR, looks like.
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Commissioners, item number 9 in your packet is the Human Resources Department agenda. Just informational items for you today. We received a resignation of a heavy equipment operator in the Public Works Department, so we've initiated recruitment to fill that position. We have filled a custody officer position, but we've also received a resignation of a custody officer, so we'll initiate recruitment to fill that part-time position. And then we have 2 other retirements that were part of the early retirement program that we had available, and those 2 individuals have now kind of exceeded their periods of pulling it back, so those are announced.
Okay.
All right.
Some other long-term staff that have been here at the county for a long time.
Yes, both of those individuals have been here well over, or around 30 to 35 years.
Isn't that something? Wow. Well, that's good. They've served our county well, too.
The next then is item number 10 in your packet. This is an addendum to an agreement with our the City of Mankato for human resources supports. We've been talking with the City of Mankato about some additional supports due to the growth that the county has seen in our employee numbers. And so the proposal that is in front of the board for consideration today would add some additional human resources to our Human Resources Department in the form of a deputy director, so an elevated position that would be working full-time, 5 days a week out of our county office, where right now we have an HR coordinator that's only working 3 days a week dedicated to Blue Earth County work. We also would retain a quarter of the Human Resources Director position, so Krista Amos continues to then support us in the way that she has in the past. The person that would fill this role would be Laura Elvebeck, and the board is well aware of Laura and her experience working with local government and HR specifically. So I personally am excited about this opportunity. I think Laura will provide some great leadership to our HR department, and as well as kind of supporting the rest of the county departments in a way that I hear from departments on occasion that would be very beneficial. So bringing it forward today for the board's consideration to approve this amendment to the HR services agreement.
Move to approve.
Second.
We've got a motion for approval and a dual second.
I didn't hear yours.
Any questions or comments?
I don't have anything at this point, and we've been talking about it in the past, and I don't have anything to add at this point.
I too think it'll be a good thing for us. I think we have that many employees that we probably need a full-time person here, so.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a plus for Blue Earth County.
Yep.
I've worked with Laura back when she was working for the City of Mankato when I was on the City Council, and I honestly believe that she's going to do very, very well for us here in Blue Earth County.
Question I have is, the deputy director role is more than just HR though, isn't it, Bob? I mean, it's much more than that.
Well, it's the deputy director of HR.
It is, okay, it doesn't say that here, so
it's limited.
implied,
Right, so it's not a deputy director in the same way that Allison Helms with the City of Mankato is the deputy director in the administration office.
Okay, that's my question.
So this is pretty targeted towards HR.
Okay, and we've got an acting deputy director.
In the contract, it does say Deputy Director of Human Resources.
Where's that?
Under change in staffing
Change in
profile.
staffing profile.
Oh, on the, you're looking at the resolution.
I'm looking at the resolution.
Yeah, we're looking at the staff report here.
The amendment I'm looking at. HR proposal, I'm sorry. Okay, just wanted to clarify, I guess.
Sure. Good.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I think it'll be a good thing too. I've known Laura for quite some time, and she's had a lot of good experiences. So, anybody else? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries.
Item number 11 in your packet is the financial status report for June 30th. This is the halfway point of our fiscal year. And so you'll see that our total revenues sit at about $43.5 million. where our total expenditures are at 42 million. So we're slightly ahead of pace, so to speak, in terms of revenues exceeding expenses, even though we have budgeted a deficit for this year. Part of the reason for that current position is really weather-related, both in terms of our road projects as well as our construction project. The county engineer indicated that they've lost probably 3 weeks on their road projects. We've lost at least that much with our building project. So those are showing up as part of this financial status report then as well, in terms of slowing down some of those expenditures. So hopefully in the second half of this year, we'll see better weather that will allow us to move those projects forwards, and you'll see then a change in our overall financial position as well. Just jumping to the second page, the investment balances, you'll see then that our total county fund sits at 111 million, up a little bit from prior years, but again, we have those plans to draw down some of those funds with the building project, assuming the weather will allow us to move forward in a better way. So I'd be happy to answer any questions, but for the sake of time, I'll kind of cut this report a little shorter this time.
Okay. Any questions?
Very good to me.
Nope, looks good.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. No, we don't have to do that.
Well, we all said aye.
You didn't have a motion on the table first.
Yeah, okay, well, you
But I
have a
appreciate
motion.
the support.
We support you, Bob.
We received your report well.
That's all I have for you, Mr. Chair.
That was good humor,
Okay.
Drew.
So who wants to start here today?
I'll start.
Okay. Sounds good.
After our last board meeting, the next day I had a Transportation Alliance Board of Directors meeting up in St. Paul. And then on Thursday, the 28th, we had a board work session that we were all at. And that's the end of my report.
Oh, that's got to be the shortest report you've ever had.
Duly noted on this date.
Can you make a note in the minutes?
Now, I challenge you.
You challenge me. Okay. Who's next then, Mark? See if you can be any shorter than that. I bet you can.
No, well, I could drag it out a little bit. It's not much more. After our board meeting, and we had the work session on the 28th, and the Partners for Affordable Housing meeting on the 29th, gearing up for our fundraising activities. Then the next day relating to homeless, June 29th, with the director and actually one of our people that had been in one of our shelters, a veteran. We went to the Homeless Leadership Council up in St. Cloud at the VA hospital. Never been there before. Rather warm, and they had us in a room with no air conditioning, which was par for the course, I guess. Certain VAs, I don't know, but anyway. That's an interesting process, and it's moving along. We'll see if what can come of it. But that then does conclude my report, Mr. Chair. So I'm sorry.
About 2 times as long as.
Yep.
Well, I'm going to stretch mine out a little bit.
Go ahead, Chris.
Okay, after our last board meeting, Drew and I and Bob were at the sheriff's and the county attorney's budget meetings. And both those went well. Of course, we had the work session on the 28th. And then 4th of July was a big day for me. I attended the Cambria Parade, and I'm very proud of our sheriff's department. They were represented well, and as well as the county attorney was there, and between the sheriff department and Pat and I, we represented about half the parade. So we had a good showing in Cambria, and was at the Vernon Center Parade also, and I was fortunate enough to help with the fireworks at dusk that night. On Saturday, I just for my own curiosity, I took a tour of Daly Park to see how that was, and I think there were 3 or 4 empty campsites. It was just totally packed.
Yeah, that sounds good.
It was great to see the folks enjoying enjoying our campground.
We have
Campground
some amazing parks.
Yeah, campground was well-groomed and well taken care of, so
Wow.
very pleased with that.
Very
Then
nice.
yesterday, I had my monthly briefing at Crystal Seasons, and the Monday before that, I should mention, I was at the annual meeting for the Brown County Evaluation Center. Went over our plans for next year. People that were down on people that are going to detox, which is good for the counties, but bad for detox.
Yeah.
So we continue to work through that.
Is that because school is out, do you think, maybe?
Oh,
Partially.
no, just the numbers are down.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of factors. I think it's the nationwide idea of working more on treatment than just detoxing, and I think there are just a lot of factors. Plus, public opinion is attitude is more about not drinking to excess. Just a lot of things going on.
Okay.
So that's my report.
Interesting. Kip?
All right, Mr. Chair, after the last meeting, Pat and I were up at the East Ridge Open House, and Pat talked a little bit, he's one of the speakers with all the doctors from around the area, so he talked a little bit about the Child Advocacy Center, and then we took a tour of that, and Pat has been working really hard on that, and when he kept telling me that this is coming together and they're going to have a spot, I'm thinking one little office, but they got 3 exam rooms and a space to do some investigating, and it's going to be a very nice asset to Blue Earth County area. So then we had the work session, which was already mentioned, and the rest of my last couple weeks have been basically dealing with drainage ditches, and you already heard my full report as far as the solar panels go. I spent a lot of time and energy just meeting with people and talking to them, and I enjoy that. It's encouraging. It's meetings that are not fun meetings to go to, but you get it out on the table and start talking about it, and at least they know you're concerned. And
You did very well, too. Thanks for your work on
I think
that.
it went pretty good, so
Yeah,
that brings me up to today.
Well, that's good. Well, nobody has made it shorter than Commissioner
Vance
Schoenberg.
has got the,
Who's next? You. I've only got about 15 items. No. Our last board meeting, June 26th, and that morning, I just want to mention, I think we did mention it once, but new employee group meeting we had that morning, and those have been going pretty well. That was probably the largest group we've had, isn't it? You think?
Yeah.
They were full all the way around the whole table, wasn't it?
that was, yeah. I would say it's the biggest
Almost
group.
every chair was taken.
Yep.
Pretty impressed. And then, of course, we had our board meeting. That's where we had a lively public hearing talking about the solar array. And we went to the landing out at Madison Lake for lunch. And of course, as Will said, Will's our vice chair. So Bob and I and Will, we met with staff up at the attorney's office with Pat and looked at the budget planning process that they're going through up there and wanted to hear how things are going. Also then after that met with the county sheriff and staff and talked about their budget planning process and what's going on there. Wednesday the 27th, I attended the Vine board meeting, just as a point of information. They meet monthly at 7:30, the third or fourth Wednesday of the month. Then we've got county board work session on the 28th. We talked about our budgeting, we talked about this audit issue, pretrial supervision, government center update, a lot of things. We actually had quite a few things that come before us and had a wonderful time together at Charlie's for our luncheon. Charlie's up on the hill. And then Friday, I had a big day, and you guys know that I go to these quarterly, but there's a lot of planning that goes into them. Several, not face-to-face, but phone calls, and then there's a new technology called Video. And so I plan with the Minnesota Department of Health for the executive board meeting, which we have an hour prior to the full SHAC meeting, and that was on that Friday. So I go up early in the morning, I get home about, 5:30 in the afternoon. And the traffic was horrid coming back from Minneapolis.
Only imagine.
Yeah, it would be.
I was driving, I think, 6 miles an hour for miles on 35E.
Wow.
So, just one little comment I can make, which I may have made once before, but some new initiatives we're working on with SHAC. They're all working hard to provide services throughout the state for health services. And one of the new work groups putting together is children and families of incarcerated. And so Sheila Cascaden, I think you know who Sheila is? Olmsted County. She's one of the chairs leading that charge and doing a great job. They're working on similar issues. So trying to catch people with these incarceration families that are caught up in the system and seeing what we can do to provide support for them. And then meeting with Bob on July 2nd, just to review things around the county, a lot of items, met for a full hour. And then the 4th, we all had our 4th of July holidays, and Dawn and I and a friend, we went out to Lake Washington. We got out there about 8 o'clock in the morning. The weather report said it's going to be great till the afternoon. And I don't know if you remember, but black clouds came rolling in about 10:30. And it kind of cut short our fishing expedition. So we kind of got stuck out there for a while. And then, trying to think here, did chapel services at Lutheran Memorial Home on Sunday, which you do monthly. And right afterwards, later on that day, we drove out to see that solar array, see how that was, what was going on out there. Just to kind of, it's good to see the lay of the land and see what's going on. And then somebody had just mentioned something, somebody called me about the Rapidan Dam Park I had mentioned earlier. And so it was good just to hear that they were concerned about it and, you know, kind of clarified some things. And then I received several comments from people over the last few weeks about they were worried we weren't going to have a solution for our stray dogs in the county. And I think the sheriff and his deputies had worked on that already behind the scenes and got things pretty much back, you know, policy work, and you were included on some of those emails, Will.
Absolutely.
And they were just worried there wasn't going to be any place for people to bring stray dogs if they find them. You know, some months there's more than others. So that's about it. Anything else for the good of the order today before we recess to Rounders? Anything else?
Nope, got nothing. I'll move to recess.
Seconds?
All right, we're motion for recess. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, we'll recess.